Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about 2025 book releases that I am most anticipating, most excited for, cannot wait for. When I tell you it was actually impossible to narrow it down to just 25, I'm being so honest because I did cheat just a little bit. This video does not include any debut books because I'm going to be putting up a completely separate video of just debuts that I'm most excited for sometime later this week, and I will link it in the description as soon as it is ready and you can check that out. But for now, know that that's coming. And then to be totally honest, I did cheat like just a little bit more, and I'm including 4 additional like honorary mentions. I'm going to start off with those, and those are books that I've actually already read. I received ARCs of, and so I feel like I'm just not quite anticipating them as much as I am these other books because I've already read them. So like I know how I feel about them, and I am obsessed with them, by the way. So I am still like really anticipating when everybody else gets to read them because I cannot wait to yap about them, all spoilery details. Originally they were a part of the 25, but then I just kept coming up with more and more books that I was excited for, and I did manage to narrow it down to like 29, including these. So if I just yank them out and give them honorable mentions, it still works. Let's just jump right into it, okay? Starting off the honorable mentions, we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. When I tell you that Ali Hazelwood does no wrong. I had to beg for this arc. I screamed when I got it. I would like literally sell my firstborn son to read Ali Hazelwood's books early. This was no exception. It was so worth it. I can't even talk about it. This is not a review, and it's gonna be so hard to remember that because I want to yap about this book forever. This comes out February 4th, and it is a collegiate sports romance. Ali Hazelwood, I love that she's branching out into new types of genres. I will eat up her STEM books every single time, and there is like an ounce of STEM in this. But it was really cool to see her in another sphere. This is very reminiscent of like Check and Mate in the sense that it is characters at the top of the game. They're like, they have nobody else is at their level, and Ali Hazelwood writes that, and the tension of that, and the pressure that these characters face, and the way they interact with each other and the world and the other people at the top of the top so well. I feel like perhaps she has some experience being the best of the best, considering she's like literally, what is it, like neuroscientist by day, best-selling romance author by night? How does she do that? I don't know how somebody can be so good at 2 completely different things, but somehow she manages it. Just trust me, this is not one you're gonna want to miss out on, and so good. That's all I'm gonna say. So good. Next up we have Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. This is the sequel to Out on a Limb, but they're actually just like interconnected standalones, so you can read them in either order. Personally, I recommend Out on a Limb first because I love Out on a Limb. This follows Sarah and Caleb, and it is a marriage in crisis book. They are having some issues in their marriage, but they both love each other so much, so they go on this like super grueling couples therapy, wilderness camping, hike adventure. Neither of them are outdoorsy people. Sounds kind of like hell to me, but it's what they need for their relationship, and they're both willing to do anything for each other in order to figure this out. And so you get to watch them rebuild their relationship with the guarantee of a happily ever after, which is always like, I love marriage and crisis books because when they're in the romance genre, you get a guaranteed happily ever after, and I think that it's just so satisfying and beautiful to watch, and this is no exception to that. It also deals with like a split timeline because Sarah has lost her mother as a child to ALS, and you get to see like how that in the past has impacted her and Caleb's relationship and her experiences as herself. And it is just like a completely beautiful book that is so heartfelt and so romantic at the same time, and it's so wonderful to watch them kind of fall in love as teenagers and fall in love as adults again. And Hannah Bonham Young is one of my favorite new authors. I am so excited to see where she goes in this sphere. And this one comes out January 28th. The third of my honorable mentions is another indie author turned trad pub that I am so completely obsessed with and have been since she was indie, and that is Chloe Lisa's Once Smitten, Twice Shy, which is the newest in her Wilmot Sisters series, which is the series she started writing after, or like kind of during, but also after the Bergman Brothers series. And it is such a beautiful way to wrap up this little interconnected standalone trilogy. I absolutely was terrified to read this because the main character's name is Juliet. And if you know anything about the series, you know that they are a bunch of Shakespeare retelling inspired books. Thankfully, Juliet is actually our main character's middle name that she goes by, and her first name is Viola, so it is actually a Twelfth Night retelling. A lot less scary, a lot less traumatic for me personally. Chloe Lisa's books all follow disabled main characters and have disability as a major theme, and just finding love while being disabled, which is just so empowering and important for me to see. Viola specifically has mid connective tissue disorder, and the other main character, Will, is autistic, and it is lived experience autism representation, and Chloe Lisa just writes some of the best disability representation you're ever gonna find out out there. In this book, Juliet has sworn off love and Will is just like out there searching for a soulmate, so they decide to like fake practice date each other in order to get her like back into the game and more comfortable with it after being severely hurt in her last relationship. And Will is just like uncomfortable with romance in general. He's kind of awkward. He's so lovable, but he just wants to feel more confident in that situation as well. So they're practice dating each other and it's not real, except it's starting to feel pretty darn real. And you get to watch that all unfold. It's a little bit messy and totally adorable, and Chloe Lisa hits every single time. Once Smitten, Twice Shy is out on January 14th. I was trying to do numbers, you can't really do that. And on January 7th, I think I put these in the wrong order that I meant to, but we're gonna roll with it. We have another indie darling turned trad pub darling, which is Sarah Adams' Beg, Borrow, or Steal. This is the third book in her Rome, Kentucky series, which is like the most perfect Hallmark small town series that just makes you feel so cozy and happy, and it's just perfect little vibes, and I want to drown myself in this town and these characters, and this is no exception. This is feuding second grade teachers. Unfortunately, it does take place in the summer, and so they're not like feuding in the classroom, which I was a little bit disappointed about. I wanted to see them duke it out in front of the children. It's fine, it's still really good, and they've got like all of this history together, and so the tension and the chemistry is immaculate. Emily is a bit of like a prickly, grumpy, but like type A perfectionist. She wants everything done exactly the way she does it because she does it right, and she's so hard on herself. And then Jack is also like very hard on himself, but he's like kind of damaged, but he uses that in order to become a like ball of sunshine. Everybody loves him. He's so lovable. Emily is the only person that he doesn't have to put on this facade for, and to watch them just be so true to themselves with each other is just, I love them so much. This is such a good one. That heads off my honorable mention. Let's get into the like official 25 list. Sorry that it took me so long to get to this point, but it's fine. These are the ones. These are the real ones, the real thing, okay? It's actually kind of funny to start off with Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, which comes out on January 14th, but I feel like I have to because I decided to go in chronological order because I like it when things are in chronological order. And it's one of my most anticipated books, okay? Like, it made the list fair and square. I'm so excited for this one. It's just weird because it's a genre that I don't typically read. This is a literary fiction with a speculative twist. And I have read so little literary fiction. I've really enjoyed everything that I read, and it's one genre that I want to like step into a little bit more in 2025. It's one of my resolutions. Do we ever follow resolutions? Not really, but this is making my list, and so I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna love it, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna read so much literary fiction. I'm gonna be highbrow, guys. This is a book about books, and it is also a book about disability. The main character, Zelu, is disabled. I believe she is a wheelchair user from what I've seen in reviews, but I'm not totally sure that that's the case because it's not spoken about in the blurb, and I don't know, I could be wrong. Don't like take my word for that. Read the book yourself and find out. But I'm very excited for this. It is like a major theme of the book, her disability and her experiences as a Black disabled woman specifically, and that is something that I really want to read more of. I love disability representation. It's something that I seek out in books as a disabled person myself, but I especially love reading about experiences and the ways that that can differ from person to person, and especially when you add in other marginalizations in there. When you read the blurb of this book, it doesn't give you a lot to go off of. Like, I don't really feel like I have a good grasp of what this book is actually about, aside from like, she writes a book, something crazy goes down. And I feel like that's kind of where you want to be with this type of book. It's one that I want to go into blind. I think that that is going to give it a much more like shocking, exciting, and mind-twisting experience. So I don't know much. There's not much that I can tell you about this one aside from book about books, book about disability. I've heard nothing but good things from people who have arcs, and I am so excited for this one. Up next, we have Carving Shadows into Gold. This is the sequel to Forging Silver into Stars, a YA fantasy with a strong romantic subplot by Bridget Kimmerer. Actually, like 2 romantic subplots, but I'm not sure where the second one's going in this book or if it really exists, because the way the last one ended, I'm sus. The way the last one ended, I needed this like ages ago, and the fact that the arc has been sitting here and I haven't read it just tells you how excited I am for it, because I'm not ready to leave this world or these characters. I actually just finished a reread of book 1 yesterday, and I am champing at the bit for more. This is going to be my next read. I cannot wait, but I haven't read it yet. As of filming, maybe by the time this is posted, I'll be partially through. But as of filming, I haven't read this. This is a series that is a spin-off of Bridget Kemmerer's Cursebreakers series, but it is its own thing. It stands on its own. Much better than the Curse. I liked the Cursebreakers. This, like, somehow 10 steps above. 5 stars the first time I read it. 5 stars the second time I read it. I don't want to leave this world or these characters because I'm so completely obsessed with them. Make of that what you will. This will be out January 28th. I've been waiting for this for so long because the first book came out a couple of years ago, actually, at this point. But I know that that means that Bridget Kemmerer took her time with this, which means that it's going to be so good. The next one my most anticipated reads comes out on February 4th, and that is This Ends in Embers by Camila Cole. I cannot wait for this. The first book in the series is a Jamaican-inspired high fantasy Joan of Arc retelling with dragons and mecha dragons. It's about sisterhood and fighting against colonial powers, and it takes place like after the characters were like the child heroes who saved the world. And like what happens after you've done that, like how it like messes with your psyche to have been that person. I was kind of worried going into the first book that it would be like what action is there to happen when they've already done the saving the world thing. But the book is basically like, you know, colonial powers don't actually go down that easily. They're gonna fight back more than that. It takes more than just like one battle. It's like a continuous battle that has to keep happening. And so there is like action, there is pact. And the ending of the first book had me champing at the bit for the second one. I have been so impatiently awaiting it, but it comes out in just a couple of weeks, just barely over a month, and I can wait. I can be patient and I can wait, but I really don't want to because the first book in the series was so good. It ended on an insane cliffhanger, and I know the second one is going to be just as good. I cannot wait. The following week on February 11th, you can expect First Time Color by V.K. Borison. I have heard literally nothing but phenomenal things from people who have arcs of this. I also have an arc. I just haven't read mine yet, but I am very excited to. I will be reading this before it comes out, and I can blab my thoughts at you if you guys want. This is a Sleepless in Seattle retelling. Unfortunately, it's not set in Seattle, which I feel like is a personal attack on me, a Seattleite. It's fine. Baltimore's a fine city to write about. It's fine. But I do love the movie Sleepless in Seattle, so the premise is very, very similar. It follows a single mom and a radio talk show host. The mom's daughter calls into the talk show and is like, I need dating advice for my mom. And it goes super viral. I've heard that Aiden Valentine, the love interest, the male main character in this book, is the best that B.K. Borison has ever read by far. And that is intimidating because I literally love every single male main character that she's ever written. And so how am I supposed to like, people are screaming about this man and I simply need to know what they are saying. On the same day, in the adult fantasy sphere, we have Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. This is the third book in the Emily Wilde saga. I believe this is the last one. Just a little bit painful. I've actually only read the first. I read it at the start of December, and so I haven't had a chance to get my hands on a copy and read the second one yet, but I already know that I'm gonna love it because the first one was the best book I read in all of December and one of the best books I read all year last year. This year, it's still December as I speak, but this is going up in January, so like, I don't really know how to talk. It's fine. It's not awkward at all. Anyway, back to the book on topic. I actually have not looked up the description of this book because I'm a little bit worried about spoilers for book 2, which I haven't read yet. But the series itself follows Emily, who is a neurodivergent scholar of fairies. She spends her entire life studying fairies, and her rival co-worker keeps butting his nosy little head into his business, and they end up falling for each other. So it's got a little bit of like a romantasy vibe. It's very debatable if this one is romantasy. People have different opinions. I personally lean towards like it kind of is. I think that Emily and Wendell's romance is a very integral part, but it's not spicy or like explicitly romantic in any way, shape, or form because of the way that Emily is. Like, she just doesn't experience romance in the same way as everybody else. So like, they're like, it's not very romantic. And I'm like, but like for her, it is. It's about the romance. You just have to like dig a little deeper into the subtext there because she's a little bit in denial. And I love it so much. I love her so much. I love this world. I love these characters. I cannot wait to read book 2, and I definitely am going to dive into book 3 immediately. On the theme of true romantasy, we have Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli that comes out on February 18th, which is 1 week later. And this is the sequel to Heartless Hunter, which is also called Crimson Moth in the UK and the EU and Australia and all of those places. So you'll hear it called either, but in the US where I live, it is Heartless Hunter, and so I'll be referring to it as such. This book is like taken over book talk lately. It kind of caught me by surprise that it did so because I wasn't totally sure how I felt when I read an arc of this one, but the hype makes me feel like maybe I liked it a little bit better. I feel like the issue with me and the first book in this series is actually not the book's fault itself. I read an arc of the first book in this series, and the arc had a typo that revealed the biggest plot twist of the book about 150 pages before it was supposed to be revealed. And so I spent the entire book being like, this would be so good if I didn't know how it ends, because it kept going back to this like central mystery, and I was like, I already know what happened. And so I kept getting bored every time it would veer into the mystery aspect because I already knew what happened. But if you read the regular edition of the book, you won't know what happens. And I think that like it surprised me when I read it. I was like, whoa, really? Like, it's a good surprise. I don't think it's super obvious. I don't know if it gets obvious towards the end because I knew 150 pages before, but like, I think it's a good book and I think it would hit a lot harder. And so I'm very excited to see how the rest of the book hits the rest of the series when I don't have spoilers on accident. It's a witch x witch hunter romantasy with like a cat and mouse game in the middle here. And it's so good. And I'm really excited to see how I feel about the book when I haven't been spoiled. This next one is definitely in the top 3 most anticipated out of all of the books on this list, and that is Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. I literally cannot wait. This comes out on March 4th, and I am kind of dying inside every single day that I don't know what happens to Bree and Sel and Nick. It's been a year and a half, and I totally respect authors who need to take more than a year to write their books because Tracy Deonn writes such like incredible books, some of the best YA fantasy, best fantasy just in general that I've read ever, that like if it takes her 2 years, it takes her 2 years. If it takes her 5 years, it takes her 5 years. I don't even care. I mean, I care because I want to know what happens, but like take your time because you are producing masterpieces, okay? This is the 3rd book in the Legendborn saga, which was originally supposed to be a trilogy, but is now going to be a quartet, and I am okay with that because it means more time in this world. I'm not ready for it to be over. I finished Bloodmarked, and I was like, oh, there's only one more book after this, and then she announced that it was going to be 4, and I was like, thank goodness. Because I can't be done after one more book. I can't. These are some of my favorite characters, some of my favorite worlds. I've read the first book twice now, and I think that I'm going to do a reread of this whole series. I remember it pretty well. I just like really love it and I want to spend more time in that world, so like I think I'm gonna reread. Also on March 4th we have Wilde by Elsie Silver. This is going to be very overshadowed by Oathbound, I'm gonna be totally honest, but it is one that I'm really excited for. Elsie Silver is not like, I've never been her biggest fan compared to a lot of other people, but she's slowly growing on me with every book. Reckless is her best book by far. Nothing has even come close to that. I am obsessed with that book. It's making my top 10 of 2024. When that video comes out, you will see it on there and you'll be like, I thought you said you weren't the biggest Elsie Silver fan out of all the people, but like I am for Reckless, for Theo Silva and Winter only. And so like I keep anticipating her books because I keep thinking like maybe it'll hit on that level, maybe it will. I don't know much about this one except that it's a marriage of convenience between like enemies, and you know what, I'm intrigued. I don't think I read anything like that and I do want to know how that plays out. One of those books that I think is on literally every single person's list is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This one comes out on March 18th, the new Hunger Games book. How could I leave this off of my list? Can I admit something that's kind of embarrassing and you're gonna be so mad at me for? I still haven't read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I haven't seen the movie, I haven't read it. Can I admit something even more embarrassing? I've only seen the first Hunger Games movie. Please don't cancel me for this. I loved the Hunger Games books when I read them in middle school. I decided I wanted to reread the books before I watched the movies and before I like continued on with the series as the new ones came out. But like, I am scared of the emotional devastation of experiencing all of that again. And basically for the first time, because it's been a decade since I read them at this point, and also I was a child when I read them, so I definitely wasn't taking in everything, and it's so intimidating, and it's gonna hurt so badly, okay? And so I keep putting it off, and I keep putting it off, and I keep putting it off, but 2025 is going to be the year. I'm gonna read one a month until March 18th when I read the brand new one. I swear it's gonna happen, and if it doesn't, then you can cancel me. This is Haymitch's story of Haymitch's game, and I'm a little bit scared that like with the increased pace of output and how it's tied to a movie, it feels a little bit like, is this for the money? Especially with, I wasn't a fan of the Hunger Games Illustrated Edition. I have a copy. Like, I'm excited about it. That's gonna be the copy that I read when I reread the Hunger Games. But like, there's something about the way that she's been doing movies right after releases and like a new special edition that feel a little bit like, she once said she was only gonna write books when she had something to say. And admittedly, there is a lot to be said right now. There is a lot of political commentary that could be made, but also, is it going to be like fan service? Is it like, it's Haymitch's story specifically that people have been asking for years? Is it going to be of the quality of the original trilogy? Is it going to hit as hard as that? I don't know. Can anything? I heard very mixed things about The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is another reason I've put off reading things, because what if that's not as good either? I'm scared. I'm intimidated. I don't know, but I'm still like so excited for it, and I do like genuinely believe it's gonna be good. I just like, there's a little voice in my head like, what if it's not? Because that would be devastating. This next one coming out on April 1st is another from my top 3 most anticipated out of all of these books, and that is Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen, the 3rd book in the Little Thieves trilogy. I think my favorite fantasy book series of all time. the way that I'm so completely obsessed with these characters, and Vanya specifically, she's like morally gray, she's hella spunky, she's so messy and I love her so much, and I love watching her grow, and the ending of the last book made me want to tear out my hair because like, why would you do that to me, Vanya? Why would you do that? Why would you do that, Vanya? And I can't wait to find out why she did that, and I can't believe that I've been waiting so long to find out why she did that, and I need to read it right now. I have an arc. I'm scared to read it because I feel like it's gonna hurt after the way that the last one ended, and also because I don't want to be done with these characters and these worlds. Like, I have a tendency to get so excited about finishing a series. Like, this is the end, it's gonna be so good, I love these worlds, I love these characters, I want to read it so badly, and then I keep putting it off because, like, once I read this, there is no more new content from this world, from these characters that I adore so much. And how do you process that? I really don't know. I think I'm gonna reread Little Thieves and Painted Devils before reading this one, as well as like all of the little short stories that Margaret Owen put out that I also haven't read, because like once I read them, there's nothing new to be read until like March. And then, you know, it's pain, but it's so worth it because these characters, this world, I'm so completely in love with them and I cannot wait. And if you have not read Little Thieves, you have to. It's a Goose Girl retelling told from the point of view of a villain, and this is enemies to lovers done right. This is the best banter I have ever read in a fantasy novel ever. Please read it. I literally will get on my knees and beg you to read this book and this series, and April 1st is coming way too soon and not soon enough, and I can't wait, and I'm not ready, but I can't wait. Not quite the final third in my top 3, but another highly anticipated one. We have Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez and I have had a bit of a rocky relationship in the past. I read her debut, her first book, before any of her other books, and I hated that book, okay? To be told, I gave it 1 star. I thought that it had some really problematic aspects. I thought the character work was just very shoddy. I did not care. It was bad. It was bad. I don't recommend it. I have since read 2 of her most recent books, Yours Truly and Just for the Summer, and I gave them both 5 stars, and they were phenomenal. And this one has a Taylor Swift lyrics for the title, and so tell me that that doesn't sound amazing. I'm so highly anticipated this, but I'm also a little bit nervous because of, like, what if she just, like, loses all of the skills that she's developed and writes a book that's the same as The Friend Zone again? And that would be personally destroying to me because I've become, like, one of her biggest fans, and I love these books so much. And so I'm intimidated, I'm a little scared, I'm very excited. This is a second chance romance, which admittedly, like, one of my favorite tropes. And it's a little bit silly goofy because like years ago these characters went on this one date, but it's like a spite date. Our main family main character, Samantha, decides she hates Xavier because he says something stupid, and she goes on this date like to prove him wrong, to stick it to him. And then it ends up being the best date of her life, but she's not in a place to be dating. So cue like a wildest dreams montage. She's like, this won't work. We have to like end this. But like, say you'll remember me, say that like you'll think about this as like the perfect date, but it can't be anything more. So like move on, forget about me, but remember this moment. And then, but they can't get over it. This was the perfect date. And years later they reconnect and things happen. I don't know what. I'm very excited to find out. Apprehensive, excited, can't wait. At the end of the month, however, my 3rd book in my top 3 most anticipated books comes out, and that is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is inspired by The Great American Dynasty by Taylor Swift, which is one of my favorite songs of one of my favorite albums by my favorite artist of all time. Me and Taylor Swift are like this. I am a Swiftie till the day that I die, and I have been since I was like 7 years old. I cannot wait for this. The excitement in my bones, like I feel like vibrating off of my chair every single time that I think about this. It's gonna be so good. Emily Henry does no wrong. She can't do any wrong. And so it's gonna be perfect, and I can't wait. And I need an arc. Berkeley, if you're seeing this, I'm in your walls. Give me an arc, please. I'm begging you. I need it. If I don't get one, I will cry. Emily Henry is going back to her beach read roots with this one, as she writes about 2 authors who are competing to write the story of this like larger than life infamous woman who is basically Rebecca from the last Great American Dynasty. And I cannot wait to see how this plays out, especially because like they're competing to write it, and yet the woman that they're writing about refuses to tell either of them the whole story. She just tells each of them like different parts, and so instead of like competing, they have to decide to come together, but they're feuding and rivalry, and like it's gonna be so good. Whew, it's fine. Deep breaths, Kaylee. We could be patient. On May 6th, Rachel and Solomon's What Happens in Amsterdam comes out, and Rachel and Solomon is one of the she's pretty popular, but I tend to be like very, very basic when it comes to my romance favorites, and so she's a little bit of like a more like people aren't as aware of her, and so I'm very excited for this one, which takes place in Amsterdam. Rachel and Solomon is a Seattleite by like where she was born and raised, but she recently emigrated to Amsterdam, And so I'm a little bit sad that this latest one isn't set in Seattle like all of her previous books, but I am very excited to take a trip to Amsterdam. I've never been, but I feel like the way she writes about Seattle is so visceral, it makes you feel like you're there, and I can picture every single aspect of that. I'm very curious to see if that feeling like is the same in Amsterdam, which I've never been to, but like how much of it is her writing and how much of it is how familiar I am with her place. I think it's a little bit of both, and so I'm excited to see how that plays out in a new place, and maybe it'll inspire me to go to Amsterdam because I would love to, honestly. This is a marriage of convenience between like two childhood friend fling type of situation, where he was their foreign exchange student and now she is marrying him for like citizenship. And so like I have been begging for marriage of convenience books where like it actually makes sense for them to need to get married. It's always these ridiculous plots like my grandfather won't give me my inheritance unless you get married, and I think that's ridiculous because that's not a real thing. Needing to get citizenship is such a real thing, and so I'm excited to see like more of a realistic marriage and convenience because I love, even when it's ridiculous, I love that trope. And so this is going to be even more grounded and even more exciting, and I literally can't wait. Bare Bones and Midnight Soil comes out the following week on May 15th, and I am so excited for this one. I don't think there's like even an official description release, which is weird. At least I can't find one, but I'm pretty sure it's about vampires, and there's something about like I already feel like I can feel the atmosphere just based on like the little bits of information that are available and the cover and like the vibes. I can feel them. They're going to be immaculate. I cannot wait. I haven't read much of V.E. Schwab, but I've really loved everything of hers that I've read, and so I'm excited to keep continuing to read more of her stuff, and especially her backlist in 2025 as well, but definitely this one too. I'm so excited. Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan comes out on the same day, and this is in the romance genre, and it's one that I'm so excited for. Kennedy Ryan is another author that I have a bit of a complicated relationship with. I read her debut, like the first Hoops novel, I think it's called, I don't remember, Long Shot. I hate that book with a passion. I think it's one of the worst, like most upsetting, like I'm so mad about that book still to this day that I've ever read, and yet her Skyland series is some of my favorite books that I've ever read. In fact, before I let go, the first book in the Skyland series is my #1 read of 2024. How do I reconcile that? I don't know, but we're forcing it to happen, and I'm so excited for this most recent one. This follows Hendrix, who is a bit of a spitfire. She's childless by choice, and she is taking care of an aging parent and simply does not have time for romance right now. And of course, that is right when the perfect man waltzes into her life and just keeps showing her so much care, and she can't help but keep falling for him, but she cannot date him. But forbidden fruit is even more delicious, and it's just like this tension of that. And Kennedy Ryan writes incredible tension and just incredible care of emotion and detail in her more recent books, and I truly think this book is going to emotionally destroy me because her last two have done so. I was sobbing in public reading both of them, so I will not be reading this one in public because it went poorly last 2 times, but it was worth it because they're so good, and I'm so excited for this. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig comes out on May 20th, and this was a contender for the top 3, and it did get knocked down just to #4, but it is one that I'm like so completely obsessed with and excited for. Rachel Gillig wrote One Dark Window, which is probably the best debut fantasy book that I've ever read. It is the best romantasy book that Book Talk will ever recommend you. It is so atmospheric and phenomenal and romantic, and her character work is incredible, and I was very apprehensive about the way that the first book in that series ended, and yet she managed to make the second book even better when I totally thought I wasn't gonna like it. And so now I would trust her with a newborn child. I would trust her with my life. I don't even care if she writes a grocery list. I will read it, and so I will be reading this. This is another gothic, atmospheric, mist-soaked fantasy romance about a girl who has to go on a quest to kill a god, and I don't know, but I am so in for it. On the 27th of May, Dolly Adler's latest Come As You Are comes out, and I am so excited for this one. There is actually not much YA on this list this year, which is kind of crazy because that's been my main genre for like so long, and this is the first year that it wasn't the #1 genre that I read, and I think it's going to be even lower next year as I start to age out of it more and more, and that is like so weird and so crazy, but one that I will definitely be reading no matter what is Come As You Are, because I love Dolly Adler. She can do no wrong in my eyes, and this one sounds incredible. It's about a girl who goes to boarding school in order to escape some like messy drama at home and ends up placed in the boys' dorm, but I feel like that's just such a perfect setup for a YA romance, and I can't wait to read this one. 2 of the books on my list come out on June 17th, and the first of that is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I am so excited for this one because Ashley Poston is another author who, for me, can do no wrong. I've loved her YA, and I'm especially loving her adult. They are contemporary romances, but with like a magical realism twist. I absolutely love these books. Honestly, A Dead Romantic is still my favorite. I know that's not popular. Everybody likes The 7-Year Slip more, and that was also a 5-star read, but The Dead Romantic is better, and if you disagree, you're wrong. I don't even care. You're wrong. This one has the potential to be as good, though. It is about a songwriter and a singer and the magical power of love and songs. And I love to sing. I love music. And so I'm very, very excited for this one. It's gonna be so good. The second release I am highly anticipating on June 17th is If We Survive This by Raquel Marie. Raquel Marie is another one of my favorite YA authors of all time. Even as I age out of the genre, I'm going to keep reading hers because they're just so, so good. Previously, she's written YA contemporaries. This is a YA dystopian because YA dystopia is taking a comeback in 2025, and I'm really, really excited for it because I was one of the people around during the boom of the dystopian genre originally, and I was all up in there. Hooked on it, my favorite books to this day are books that I read during that boom, and I am very, very excited to see it come back. This is a zombie book specifically, and it's about zombies and OCD, and I have OCD, and zombies specifically are an OCD trigger of mine, and so that is going to be difficult, and I don't know how it's going to go for me personally, and so it might be one that I have a hard time with, but I feel like it's going to be so worth it because I feel like it's also going to be like, the two of those together with the way that they affect me specifically feels too much like fate to pass up, and I can't wait to see how that plays out. I'm very, very excited, if a little bit apprehensive, but I know that Raquel Marie is going to write it so incredibly well. The way she has written mental health and mental illness in her previous books give me like no qualms about that. I believe its own voices, lived experience as well, and so I truly cannot wait. It's going to be so good. The next release I'm excited for is July 3rd, Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. Julie Soto has written contemporary romances before, and this is her romantasy debut. I believe this is The Auction, which is a Dramione fanfic, like reimagined. Julie Soto wrote that, obviously. She didn't like steal somebody else's work. I did not know that she wrote The Auction. I haven't read The Auction. I'm not really a fanfic reader. I want to become one, but I don't ever know where to start because I'm not really a Harry Potter person, and all of the fics I see recommended are Harry Potter, for example. The Auction. I'm very, very excited for this one. I don't really care that it's Harry Potter. Like, that's not like a driving point for me. If anything, it's like, I don't love the author of that. I actually very strongly dislike her. But like, this isn't attached to her in any way. She doesn't get money, whatever, it's fine. And I love Julie Soto, and I'm very, like, I've been curious about Hermione fics, but I haven't wanted to like dive into that just because like I don't care about her. Like, Harry Potter wasn't a thing for me the way that it was for a lot of people. I enjoyed it when I read it, but it's been ruined at this point, and I don't have any interest in reading fics of it. But like, having the world changed and the character names changed and it just like reimagined like this, I'm very curious because just of how much good things I've heard about this specific fic itself. If it's not The Auction and I'm getting confused, which is quite possible because I feel like I'm saying this so confidently, and yet there's a part of me that's like, Kaylee, you're so wrong here. That would be embarrassing. Please let me know and like make me feel better that it actually is. And if it's not, I'm still very excited for it because I'm so excited just to see Julie Soto in the romantasy sphere after being so obsessed with her contemporary romances. On July 15th, Sangu Mandana will drop the much anticipated sequel to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is called The Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. And this is another of her cozy found family, fantasy, romantasy, paranormal romance. I don't even know what to call it, but I loved The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and I'm so excited for this one. She just, the way she writes this world and these characters and this found family, I am going to eat up every single second of this book, and I know it. One of my favorite authors, Maisie Eddings, is releasing her latest book on August 5th, and this is called Well Actually, and I thought, based on the title, that it was going to be a Love Actually, like, vibe. It's not. It's inspired by, like, what's her name? That chicken shop interview girl. I was not familiar with this like show at all until she had Andrew Garfield on it and it went mega viral, and apparently this is a thing that I've been missing out on, and I definitely need to start watching it because it was a hilarious episode. But this is inspired by that. The character basically does the same things but with hot dogs so that they can make dick jokes, basically. You know what? I can't blame them at all. She goes super viral on her talk show because she calls out her ex, and he is like a little bit of a celebrity of his own. And it's messy and funny, and it's second chance romance, which again, I've already said it before in this video, but that's my favorite trope. And so I am so excited to see Maisie Eddings take it on because I love her, and I can't wait. This is gonna be so good. It sounds so good already. In the UK, Talia Hibbert's romantasy debut comes out on August 15th. In the US, there's no release date, but I figure because it's such a highly anticipated one, it'll come out at a similar time in the US. So, like, grain of salt for the timing on this one, but Talia Hibbert is one of my favorite romance authors. I've loved her YA and her adult, and her humor, I need more of it, and put that in a romantasy setting. I think that's going to be everything that I wanted Kimberly Lemming to be for me, because Kimberly Lemming, like, her books are so well loved, and it's like a similar kind of cozy romantasy vibe that I think Talia Hibbert has talked about going for. Kimberly Lemming's humor just doesn't work for me personally. A lot of people love her. If you love her, I'm so happy for you. That's just not how my sense of humor is, but Talia Hibbert does have my sense of humor, and so I'm very, very excited for that. I literally cannot wait. There is no information about this book. It doesn't even have a cover. I find it a little bit hard to believe that it's gonna come out in August based on the whole, like, no info, no cover, but I am desperately hopeful, and so I'm putting it in August anyway. I can't wait. As for our next book, it actually comes out all the way in November on 11/11, and that is Unending by Iblise Husman. I don't know of any books coming out in September or October, and I think that's just because books coming out that far in the future haven't been announced yet. Unending specifically was pushed back, and I've been waiting so patiently, and again, like, it's one of those things where I want authors to have as much time as they need. I'd rather they put out, like, the best book they can rather than a rushed one, but also, like, I'm excited and I can't wait to read this book. This is the sequel to Unseelie, which is a fantasy adventure heist book based on the folklore idea that changeling fae from Celtic folklore were, like, mythologized versions of autistic children. Like, that is how they described away autistic children existing in their communities before medicine and, like, knowing what autism was. And so it takes that and creates an entire world and story around it, and it's absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait for the sequel. I'm super, super excited to see what happens. It's a wonderful found family, and I need more of it. And finally, number 25, not my 25th most excited. This is in chronological order, so I presume it's gonna be around one of the last ones released. There's no release date, there's no cover, there's no information about this at all. But it is Coldwire by Chloe Gong. This is all there is to know about this book, is that it is a YA dystopian and it is by Chloe Gong, and that is all I need to know to be so freaking excited for this book. Chloe Gong could write a grocery list and I would be really excited for it, but the fact that she's writing a YA dystopia, which I already said is one of these genres that is, like, most important to me because it's one of the books that got me into reading when I was a teen, middle school, and all of that, and so, like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I want more information desperately, but I will take it as it comes, and yeah, these are my 2025 25 most anticipated releases, not counting debuts, because that will be in a separate video that will be coming so soon, I promise. If you have any 2025 releases that you are super excited for that I managed to miss, debut or otherwise, because I haven't totally finalized the debut list yet, let me know. I desperately want to hear them. I know that I'm forgetting books here. Like, I kept, like, up until making this video, discovering more and having to shift my list around because there's so many incredible books coming out next year, and I want to know what you're excited for, and I want to know if any of these are on your list and which of these are on your list and how excited you are for them, or maybe you just learned about some of these books now. Are you excited? Just yap at me. I love it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I feel super weird saying that because this is only my second YouTube video ever, and do people actually say that anymore? I don't know, but I'm gonna say it now. Okay, bye.